All right, let's see. What's up? What's up? Um, if you look, if you look at the ticker at the bottom, it'll tell you the link if you want to join. If not, that's fine. I'm cool with that. This is the IBN College Football Show. We are doing a Saturday show. Um, Partially my fault. I tried to trick Marcus into doing the show Thursday when the Ohio State game was going on. Obviously, he got a little too preoccupied with the game in order to do the show. So we delayed it to Friday, and then of course it's Friday, so we didn't get around to it on Friday. But I am here today to do the show, and I'll just do it by myself here. So let's see. So we got the stream link at the bottom if you guys want to join. What I'll do is just a quick rundown of each game, what I think might happen, some of the variables that you might catch in the game. I mean, at the end of the day, you guys make the picks on what you agree with, what you don't agree with, what you want to bet on. If you don't want to bet, what you think is a good game, all those different variables. So before I start, I gotta give an apology to the Miami Hurricanes, and then I guess admit that UNC is trash. I know it's just game one, and people can bounce back. I mean, there's plenty of games left in the season for people to bounce back, but nah, bro. UNC is awful. Yesterday was awful. Shout out to Tech. If a team don't want to win, take it from them, and that's what they did. I'm not sure if I'm a big believer in Virginia Tech football right now. They still got to kind of be consistent for me. Give me like one more game like that or two more games like that, and then maybe I'll consider, thinking of them to be contenders on their side of the ACC. But I think it was more of UNC just UNCing. I don't know what else to say. I gotta admit I was very disappointed and shocked to see them like thoroughly get whipped. It's not even about the score. They literally didn't win any aspect of that game, and that was the most shocking thing. Hell, even the quarterback got outplayed, which is shocking to me too. But it looks like Tech got a little something going on though, so we will see when they get their next game next week or the week after that. We'll see where they go with that. So somebody just said UGA is ass. I'm assuming that's Jamal. It probably is Jamal. But we will go ahead and get started. Let's see. I had that ticker up here. Here we go. All right. So game of the week, Georgia versus Clemson. The line, I think I updated it. It is -3 Clemson. So Clemson's favored by 3. The over-under was 50.5. Some of this might be a little outdated because these are lines that I had on Thursday. I did try to update it today, but I mean, lines are ever changing, especially on big market games like Georgia versus Clemson. So it's a neutral site game, and I put neutral in air quotes because I think it's in North Carolina, which is a shorter travel for Clemson, obviously, than it is for Georgia. But nevertheless, it is neutral site. We've got Kirby Smart, Dabo Swinney. We got the Georgia class, which is typically top 3 every year versus I don't want to say a rebuilding Clemson because these programs, like we talked about in the preseason, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia's, Alabama's, they don't rebuild, they reload. And so I had actually learned the quarterback's name. I think it's DJ Alongale or something like that. I had to go back and look at the pronunciation again. But DJ has some experience under his belt. He played against Notre Dame last year. They lost. But, I mean, I think that experience is going to go a long way. It was a big-time game. He played very well. He's actually a very talented quarterback, obviously not as known as Sunshine, but nevertheless, to me, just as capable of winning big games for this Clemson program. And I think that's what they really need. You got a defense returning the majority of their starters. Obviously, Venables is still the defensive coordinator. I expect him to be aggressive. I think, I said this in the preseason, and I'll say it again. I think this Clemson front is just a very loaded, talented, and versatile group. I think we'll see a lot of that today. To me, the game comes down to what we know from Georgia and what we know from Clemson. I mean, you don't have to overthink it too much. Like, to me, Clemson is the more versatile program, offensively and defensively. They do a lot of different things, but they're more capable, and we've kind of seen that over the years, whether it be in the national championship or just making it to the playoffs. Nevertheless, they seem to be the more capable program. I had a graphic that they were showing on Friday night, whereas, like, I think Georgia's average class is ranking is 2.3 or something like that. And Clemson's average class, I think this since 2015, was around 5. And it just kind of showed the differences in the programs, and then what they've been able to accomplish. And on paper, Georgia is the better team pretty much every single year by recruit rankings and things like that. But on the field and results, that comes from that goes to Clemson. Everything just skews to Clemson. I think that's a testament to Dabo and his staff. I'm not here to knock Kirby Smart, but to me, again, it just comes down to what I know in Clemson and what I know from Georgia. I know Georgia's the one with some injury issues as well on both sides of the ball, and also at wide receiver. So I think this is going to come down to just a stylistic matchup. Anything Georgia throws at Clemson offensively, I think Clemson can handle. I'm not sure if everything Clemson can throw at Georgia defensively, Georgia can handle, and it's not necessarily a knock on Georgia. Defense is probably more of a knock on their offense, because if we get into a situation where the fields start to get shorter, Georgia is doing a lot of 3 and outs on offense, and their defense is spending a lot of time on the field. I think that's ultimately where we're going to see Clemson start to kind of pull away a little, and I don't expect it to be over 10 points. I mean, if it was more than a touchdown, I'd be a little surprised. But what I think is we're going to see ultimately Clemson's going to be able to run the tempo that they want on offense and get the pressure that they like to get on defense, and that'll just kind of wear Georgia down. So I'm going to side with Clemson here. As far as the over-under, I mean, I don't know. I don't typically bet over-unders on these early season big games. I usually just run at the spread. So if we're looking at an over-under, I would probably lean to a team side and take Clemson's team side over, which will probably be around 27.5 or 26, 27 points. I'm thinking they get at least 28, and it's not a knock again on Georgia's defense. You just got to kind of consider how many possessions they'll probably get, the tempo at which they'll probably be able to run their offense, and then the fact that Georgia might be playing on a short field at times. So one of the ways that Georgia could definitely win, though, is if they get DJ into situations where he's making turnovers. I haven't seen a lot of that in his work, even when he was in high school, but I would assume that would be their best bet, to kind of flip the field and make it so Georgia has a shorter field, because Georgia's going to have to score pretty much every possession, and not just field goals, but they need touchdowns. If they can get touchdowns, I think they got a good chance of winning. Sometimes when we see Georgia win games, they tend to have these series where they'll get a touchdown here and a couple field goals. You can't do that against a team like Clemson. You have to anticipate Clemson's going to get at least 28 points no matter who they play. So you got to get some touchdowns. So again, finishing drives. If you're Georgia and you're finishing drives, you got a good chance. If you're not finishing drives, then I would start to get a little worried. The next game is a doozy, and I actually did not update this game. Just want to make sure my mic was on. I actually did not update this game, but Alabama versus Miami. It's a neutral site game. Miami is the underdog at 19.5. It's fluctuated between 18.5 to 19.5 points. I've seen it as high as 20 over the last week. The over-under at 61. Miami, if you like Miami, the money line play right now is 7-1. I'm not telling people to play that, but I'm just saying if you like the idea of Miami being able to kind of get one over on Alabama, this would probably be the spot to take that shot. Because obviously, if we were 3-4 weeks into the season, you don't want to touch that. But game ones can be a little tricky. They can be a little crazy. Again, I don't anticipate a team like Alabama or a coach like Nick Saban getting tricked up like that, especially by somebody like Manny Diaz. But we've seen stranger things happen. I don't want to count anybody out per se, but what this will boil down to me is what I was talking about, I think, in our preseason program as well. Miami has shown over the last couple of seasons with Manny Diaz a lack of explosive plays. And I just worry that they don't have the dynamic to really put the pressure on a team like Alabama. The squads that we've seen Alabama struggle with over the past have been like prolific offensive teams. The LSU team that won the national championship with Joe Burrow, the squads with Trevor Lawrence, Sunshine that played for Clemson, and then the Ohio State squads that they've struggled with or had games where they've given up a ton of points. They've been dynamic as well. I'm not sure if we're going to see that from Miami, and if we do, then it will definitely change the way this game is going to play. Obviously, Miami fans like my man Wendell here are all over Miami, and again, you have a window here of opportunity, and like Kendall says, Bama only beats themselves. Typically, that is true. I was telling somebody, I think over the last 5-6 years, I can probably count on one hand how many times I've even considered betting against Miami, and I can count, or against Alabama, and I can count on two fingers how many times I've actually bet against Alabama. So, but let's be honest here, 20 points is a big number, man. 20 points is a big number. We're not talking about an Alabama team that's rolling in those NFL first round pick caliber players like that we're used to seeing. I think with more experience, you're getting the NFL caliber talent. You're just not getting the experience with this particular roster. Bryce Young is a question mark, although obviously everybody's really optimistic on him. Highly recruited quarterback, 5-star coming out of high school. He's got Bill O'Brien as his offensive coordinator, who is taking over for Steve Sarkisian, which I don't know what Bill O'Brien's offense is going to look like. I am not a fan of Bill O'Brien based off of what he did in his college tenure and then in his transition to NFL. Never really been a big fan of Bill O'Brien, but if anybody could fix a coach, we've seen Nick Saban is the coach fixer. So again, I think Miami needs to protect the ball, and they need to take shots. It's just that simple. To me, they've got nothing to lose, so there's no reason to play conservative or call plays conservatively. And, that was my knock on Miami in the preseason, is that Manny Diaz gets into games sometimes and he coaches not to lose. What's the point of doing that when you're in this position? Like, everybody expects you to lose. I mean, you're not dumb. You can evaluate talent. Alabama's got a ton of talent. There's no need to kind of sit back and let it happen. So be aggressive. One of the things to look for in this game, not only for the cover, but also for the over-under, Alabama has shown that over the probably last 7-8 years, they've got a good knack of turning defense into offense. It reminds me a lot of the 2000 Ravens, that defense that everybody loves with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. The tenure that Ed Reed and Ray Lewis had at the NFL with the Ravens, their defense had a lot of times where they would get fumbles or get interceptions and turn into instant offense. And you got a montage of plays where Ed Reed or cornerback or even Ray Lewis would get an interception or pick up a ball, and they just get an escort all the way to the end zone. And that type of stuff really helps a offense. It really helps a team morale overall. When Bama was at their peak, that was what they did to a lot of teams, is in the way that they beat a lot of teams, is that they really didn't need their offense to give them anything but 14-21, because the defense was good for another 14, or even special teams was good for another 14. So it'll be interesting to see if Alabama can come out and kind of have that same approach and give a guy like Bryce Young time to ease into the college football scene. Because we saw on Thursday night, with Stroud and Ohio State, there's going to be some growing pains. And I thought Stroud played great for a first-time start. But, again, you can't expect guys to come out and be 400-yard-a-game type players. Everybody's got a transition or has that learning curve. It's just a matter of how quick they catch on. So I want to see how Bryce Young comes along, what they're going to do. Alabama has some ridiculous playmakers, obviously, just some guys that just defy logic when it comes to like size and speed and quickness ratio. So be on the lookout for some of those guys standing out. Defensively, I think Alabama's got everything they need to challenge a Miami offense. It just comes down to Derek King. How's he going to play? How good is the knee? Are they going to put some pressure on him? Can he make the throws when he needs to make the throws? And ultimately, will he make sound decisions? Because, again, you cannot turn the ball over to these to the Alabama squad and expect to even be competitive, let alone win. So that would probably be the second game that I would hype up and say that was like the game of the week, just because it's two programs that people obviously want to see on the field together. Let's see. What's up, Ben? I'm about to get to your squad in a second. Actually, yep, here we go. Louisiana Lafayette is traveling to Texas to take on the Longhorns. It's still 8.5 right now. The over-under was at 58 again. I'm not 100% sure if that line has not moved. I had hyped it up during our show during the preseason, and I think I had said that I got the line at 14.5 for Louisiana Lafayette. It opened at 16.5 on some markets. And I want to say at the time of that show, it was still teasing around 10 or 11. So now I'm down to 8.5. I've seen it as low as 8. Obviously, Ben is very high on the Texas Longhorns. And we got a little side bet going on. He's got Texas by 28. I'm not going to advise anybody to follow that. Anytime somebody's giving you options, don't tease the line 20 points. But it should be an interesting game. I want to see what Sarkisian does with his quarterbacks. They're both two young guys, not a lot of experience. Word on the street is that he will incorporate a 2-quarterback system. If he does do that, that'll be a little interesting as well, because I think the young man that he's starting first is the more versatile and athletic quarterback. And I think the guy behind him is what they would expect from not a traditional pocket passer, but he's less likely to hurt people with his legs. So I feel like in situations where we've got people still trying to figure out a starting quarterback, even during a week 1 game, I get a little nervous. The 8.5 isn't. It's not obviously the 14.5 that I took. So I'll be completely honest with you here. If you want to go either way, that's fine. But I've said this in private, and I'll say it on the air. I don't think that this team that Texas is putting out is more than 10 points better than Louisiana Lafayette. I understand Louisiana Lafayette offensive line is shuffling. D-line depth is shaky. The strength of their defense has been and always will be the pass defense. This is just a collective effort of really athletic linebackers and a really aggressive secondary. It's one of those situations where I'm not sure if it's really a fade of Texas as much as it is just me trusting Louisiana Lafayette's unit that they're bringing back. Like there's not a lot of turnover as far as scheme and expectations of that program with Napier at the head. Like they established a culture last year, and they're trying to build off of that. I think most of those guys who are coming back this year were present for the Iowa State game last year, so there's going to be a lot of confidence coming in, and with Sarkisian taking over, obviously there's a lot of optimism in Texas. But again, there's going to be some transition. They got a new defensive coordinator. They got a new head coach, new quarterbacks. The offensive line isn't as strong as people would like. But defensively, I think is going to be the strength of Texas today and probably for most of the year. And then also, you cannot forget Bijan. I don't know how you say his name, but the running back from Texas, he is a monster. But again, like I said to people, I don't think in today's game you can run the ball 35, 40 times and beat somebody with one player. Not consistently and not top programs, even if it's a group of five team. If they're a top group of five team, I find it hard to believe that anybody is just going to come in and run the ball 35, 40 times and still come out and win. Notwithstanding, you were talking about covering a number that's over a touchdown. If you get into passing downs, what are we going to see from Texas? And I'm not saying that they won't do anything or they can't do anything. I'm just saying it's just a lot of questions. I think Louisiana Lafayette is going to load the box and try to get Bijan to essentially beat them by itself, and when that doesn't work, they're going to have to pass, and that plays into Louisiana Lafayette's tactic. Ultimately, what we're looking at here is, again, all comes down to who can protect the rock. If Texas turns the ball over, Louisiana Lafayette can come out with a win. That's how they beat Iowa State. They forced turnovers, and they had short fields. They got a couple easy touchdowns, and then got a special teams touchdown, and that literally was the difference. I think with maybe two interceptions, or I think it was two interceptions and a special teams touchdown last year is essentially the game changer to what happened with Iowa State. So Texas protects the ball. They shouldn't have any issues winning, although I still don't believe that they're going to cover the number. So it could go either way at 8.5. My 14.5, I feel like is safe. But, we've seen stranger things happen. Ben's minus 28. Good luck with that, Ben. The over-under at 58. Believe it or not, I'm leaning to the under here. I'm really feeding into what I hear out of just the Texas camp and people in general about Texas defense and what they're possibly able to do. And then Louisiana Lafayette, there are some pieces here and there from their offensive scheme that were important last year that they do have to kind of replace or work in new personnel. So it might not start out as fast for them offensively. So we will see. This is not true. Okay, 55-3. Don't listen to him. All right, next game. We've got a funny game. LSU at UCLA. UCLA is a 2.5 underdog. The over-under is 65. I just think it's wild to me that LSU is such a low number against UCLA. This seems like an overreaction to me from a week 0 game that I don't know how anybody expected anything different. Like UCLA beat Hawaii like I expected them to beat Hawaii. But they didn't look that great doing it, especially from the passing game. Like offensively running the ball, they were fine. And I do believe I said on one of our shows that I expected them to basically run Hawaii over if they were to win. If UCLA was going to beat Hawaii, it was going to happen through the running game because Hawaii is weak up front. If UCLA is going to beat LSU, they got to pass. They are not going to run over LSU. And I don't think they can pass. I'll be honest. And if they are passing, if if I'm hyping up Louisiana Lafayette secondary, I mean, I don't think any college fan needs an introduction to what LSU has in their secondary. They are dangerous in their secondary, and it's going to be tough for UCLA. Now, what LSU has offensively, I'm not super high on that, but I think it's still an offense that if you don't turn the ball over, your defense will do enough to help you win. I mean, 2.5 is nothing, man. It's a really, really low number for a road game. So LSU, I think, is the quality program. Not knock on Chip Kelly, but I think that they're just the better program, better team on paper. Passing against a squad like Hawaii with barely 50% completion rating and under 200 yards is just not going to get it done the next week when you play LSU. Now, there was time to obviously address some of those things, but I just don't know if there was enough time to address it the way it should be addressed and expect LSU to not beat UCLA. The over-under is 65. It's a little tricky. I think LSU tempo has slowed down a lot, obviously without Joe Brady and Joe Burrow. UCLA still runs with some tempo, but because I expect their offense not to have as many explosive plays, especially on the ground, I'm leaning to the under on this game as well. Probably looking at a line that's somewhere between 58, 59, maybe 60 at the highest as far as a point total. But I do believe that LSU will definitely cover this spread. And again, it's not a knock on UCLA. I just feel like it's a little bit of an overreaction from a week 0 game that just went the way it was supposed to go. Money line wise, LSU is minus 140. If you want to just take them outright to win, if you feel more comfortable with that rather than playing a number, UCLA is plus 120. If you feel like they do have a solid shot at just winning outright. From the game that I talked about before, Louisiana Lafayette is plus 270 money line, so they do have money line value, but they're not my money line play of the week. So here we go. Next game. It's a late night game. I think it's 10:30. We've got Mountain West, a conference that people don't normally watch except for me, and then Pac-12, a conference that people don't normally watch, even me. Nevada at California. I'm not sure if this line is still 3.5. I can check real quick because it is towards the bottom of the screen here. Let's see. No, yeah, it's at 3. All right. It's at 3. If you're gonna take Nevada by the hook, take it at plus 3.5. I am very close to calling Nevada my dog of the week play, but I still hesitate a little because I think there's value in a more familiar matchup. And that's just the only knock on this. Nevada and California don't play each other that much. In my notes here, I just mentioned it just comes down to the simple fact. I like Carson Strong, the quarterback of Nevada, more than I like California's defense or anything on California's offense. Nevada's defense isn't world dominating, but California's offense is so pedestrian that I think it really does have a solid matchup. So I'm going to go with the better quarterback in Carson Strong. That is my angle there. That's why I'm picking Nevada to win this game. As Ben said, Cal's beating Marcus's sleeper. Marcus is my co-host. He's not here right now, but he was very high on Nevada during our preseason show. If Cal wins, it's going to be ugly. So if you like Cal, I think the under 52.5 is the play. If you like Nevada, the under 52.5 still might be the play, but I would consider all the numbers and information that you have if you're gonna play the over under here, because it could get a little tricky. One thing about Cal's defense is that they are very solid, very thorough, very well coached, and they don't give a lot of ground when they're playing defense. Ian, what did you miss? I guess to sum it up, Miami's trash and Alabama's going to win. But Wendell thinks that Alabama will or that Miami's going to cover. I said it just comes down to Miami not turning the ball over if they have a shot at winning outright. If you wanted to play Miami money line at 7-1 against Alabama, now would be the time to do that. You'll never get another chance with Alabama being vulnerable, and I put that in air quotes as they are right now. So it's worth a shot if you're a Canes fan. It's worth a shot. I'm not going to talk you off the ledge, but just know that you're betting against Alabama. That's all. Let's see. So yeah, Nevada, I like them. I don't have anything else to say on that. My next game on here, because we were supposed to do the show Thursday, the next game was the Hokies versus UNC, and that's why I paused, because God knows I was about to say something stupid there. Penn State is visiting Wisconsin. The line is at 5.5. I've seen it as high as 6. The over-under is actually 49.5. It's no longer 50, but I mean, you might switch to 50 at some point. So what we're looking at here is a lot of question marks on Penn State. What are we going to see? We know how James Franklin is. What are we going to get out of the offense? What do they have on defense as far as playmakers? Because they're replacing a lot of guys, or they're replacing people that we've known them to call playmakers on that defense. Wisconsin's just they're coming back with pretty much their team from last year. The main focus is that they're coming back with their starting quarterback. This isn't the Wisconsin of old, where it's just like run. Let's play defense. Run again. It's 4th and 10. Let's go for it and just run another run play. It's not that Wisconsin. They do have a little bit more dynamic of an offense. The tempo is still kind of slow for my liking, but it's not as pedestrian as like Iowa. So the over under, I think, is one of those things where you're gonna probably see it hit over later in the game. I don't think it's gonna start out with a lot of points. Penn State, most of the people that I've seen picking Penn State are picking them to win outright or cover, and they're expecting momentum from Penn State to come in the second half. I've never really known James Franklin to be an adjuster, so I don't know if I'm on board with that, but I did pick Penn State to cover the number. I just don't know if I'm on board with taking the money line almost 2-1. I don't know. It's just too many variables for me from people that I respect their opinion on Big Ten football and Penn State football in general. There seems to be this kind of disclaimer where it's like, look, we expect them to be better than what they are on paper. We just don't know if this is the game where we're expecting to see that. Okay. So Wisconsin, they deserve your respect at 5.5, even 6 in this spot, especially based off of how we only really have the 2020 data to go off of for pretty much everybody. It's not something that I think people want to hang their hat on, taking Penn State outright as a 6-point dog to Wisconsin in Wisconsin. But again, at plus 185 or almost 2-1, if you want to throw it in a parlay or something like that, I don't think it's like absolutely ridiculous to give it a shot. I just think logically Wisconsin is the play here for sound bettors. Even if you look at the Action Sports Sharp report, seems like Sharps were also leaning to Wisconsin. And I'll give you a disclaimer: Sharps have been on it. They were on Illinois. They were on Michigan State. They were on Virginia Tech. They were on Minnesota to cover. I mean, literally, the Sharps have been unstoppable early on. So if you do have Action Sports Network app, or if you have their subscription, check their Sharps report and really give it a strong consideration, because as it goes right now, they're virtually undefeated. So they've got Wisconsin. I think I'm going to go ahead and side with them on Wisconsin, but ultimately I probably won't even play this game. Let's see. Indiana at Iowa. I think this line is, nope, it's still 4. Okay. So Indiana is Iowa's favored by 4. Over unders at 46. Indiana is going to be my money line play of the week, my dog play of the week that I like at plus 150. I'm still buying in on Tom Allen and this team. I know a lot of people are not. So we're going to pretty much have this as the show me game. UNC had their show me game at Virginia Tech, and they showed me that they are trash. Indiana's got their show me game at Iowa, and I want to see, if they don't outright win, but they still cover the number, I'm okay with that. I do think that this line might have went down to 3.5, but either way, I think that Indiana has the more dynamic offense, and they've got a defense that to me is still somewhat underrated. I don't know if it's because they run a 4-2-5 or 4-2-5 in the Big Ten and it makes them underrated or what. But either way, I really like what Indiana brings to the table. What Tom Allen has kind of got these kids to believe in, and I'm gonna buy in for at least this game. I will buy in and give him a chance and Indiana a chance to show me. Not high on Iowa. Iowa's boring. I mean, if they win, they just win. There's nothing really to talk about with Iowa. You got a quarterback who is a stick in the mud. You got a offensive line that has question marks, believe it or not, except for its center. I think the center is regarded as like the best lineman in the country, or one of the best linemen in the country. But then receivers, they're just out there to be extra blockers. Tight ends, they're just out there to be extra blockers and occasionally catch a third and long pass. And then defensively, they're just a sound team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're not like crazy athletic. They don't do a whole lot of intricate blitzes or anything like that. They just play sound football and put a hat on a hat and keep you honest, So Indiana, I think, has the dynamic approach to make an Iowa team kind of work a little, stretch them a little on offense, get after them on defense, even if they don't have the same size. I think they do have the advantage schematically, okay? So that's why I'm picking Iowa. One thing to keep in mind with Iowa, I do believe their coach is going to retire at the end of the season. So people might rally behind him. Iowa's also very tough at home. So there's that as well. But I'm still going to go with my dog play of the week to be Indiana. All right, so wrapping up the show real quick with the quick hits. My quick hits, Marshall is at Navy. The line is +2. Not sure if I'm using this in the right term or not, Jeff. So I'll hit you up on the side and ask. But I'm landing on Marshall, which isn't a whole lot. I mean, it's 2 points. But either way, they're the favorite that I'm not even questioning it. I am full steam ahead on Marshall. I think they're just too big, too strong. Their strength of their defense is the front that they have, like up front. When you're going against a triple option team, a lot of people think it's the linebackers. It's really your defensive linemen that make or break your defense when it comes to the triple option. Just because if they can get the penetration and the push, then it really disrupts a lot of the timing of the people in the backfield for their options. And then that makes it easier for the linebackers, easier for people to make their reads. Marshall ain't going to have to worry about people passing on them. And I think they're a pretty physical defense for Conference USA. And this is right up their alley. I don't know why it's 2, but I'm sure I'll see something. I think sharps are on Marshall. I mean, everybody should be on Marshall. Navy shipment should be on Marshall. Like, everybody should be betting on Marshall, in my opinion. But, like, again, the line is a little funny looking to me. I feel like it should be way higher than that, but we will see. Marshall also did not have a good end of their season last year. A lot of that was due to COVID, just kind of disrupting their schedule. So, again, if we're taking into consideration 2020 data, it probably looks like Marshall was taking steps back. But in actuality, before COVID disrupted their season, when they did start playing, I think in September or early October, they were a solid squad. I think I used them as an upset last year. They beat Appalachian State outright as like a 4 to 5 point underdog at home. So it's not a team that doesn't have talent. I like the quarterback, really solid guy, tough kid. loves to sling the ball if he has to, but again, the strength of this team is always going to be their offensive and defensive lines, and I think that's where we're going to see them dominate this game. Other quick hits: Army is at Georgia State. Georgia State's favorite by 2.5. I like Georgia State. Not really a knock on Army. I do love my military academies. I'm typically picking Army, Navy in games. I just think these lines are a little too low for the matchups that they have. Interesting styles for Army versus Georgia State. Georgia State likes to run tempo, keep it moving, keep it moving. They're returning pretty much their entire offense from last year. The offense last year is, I want to say, top 3 or maybe even the best offense in Georgia State football history. So they're returning all those kids pretty much, which you would anticipate there will be some points. Army's defense was really good last year, but I think their schedule was really poor as well, really weak. So it'll be interesting for me to see if what I saw last year from Army's defense and these returning players was fool's gold or if it's for real, because Georgia State's offense is the real deal when it comes to Group of Five and Sun Belt in general. They can put up points with the best of them, and I want to see if Georgia State or if Army can slow them down. Offensively for Army, anytime we're talking about triple option teams, Army, Navy, we always want to look at the quarterback, how much experience they've got, and then we always want to also make sure that the team has a fullback, because if the fullback is really good in this triple option, then you're not going to have any problems moving the ball. Army's got 5 guys that can play quarterback. I don't think anybody's got over more than 6 games of experience, but they've all run the triple option. So there's comfort there. Didn't hear too much about the fullback. Army over the last year or so has been the better passing team of the service academies, but I don't know if I'm confident enough for them to do a lot against Georgia State. Georgia State's strength of their defense is typically the linebackers, so we'll see how that matches up. Okay, but I'm still leaning towards Georgia State. The other quick hit: West Virginia at Maryland. Maryland is a 3-point dog right now. I said this on our Big 12 preview, and I'll say it again. West Virginia historically doesn't really play well on the road. They didn't win one road game last year. Did not win one road game last year. If you go back to 2019, I don't have it in front of me, but you could probably see some disparities in performance from home and away for their football program then. As far as I can remember, I've been gambling pretty consistently for the last 7 years. West Virginia hasn't typically been a team that you want to back on the road. This 3 is maybe a trap for real, because Maryland has been known to sneak people. Shout out to Texas. Been known to sneak people in game ones. So I think a lot of people have questions about Maryland and their ability to be consistent enough performers to close out games. I don't think anybody has a question about the talent that they have there or whether they should be able to compete with the West Virginia. It's just ultimately, can you trust them to close out the game? I think today, I'm willing, again, show me. I'm willing to give them a shot. I'm higher on Maryland at home with this number than I am on West Virginia on the road with this number. So I'll take the home team and, again, see where it gets me. So the next one is near and dear to me. Notre Dame is coming to Florida State to take on Florida State. It's our first season without Coach Bobby Bowden, somewhere in the land of the living. And I hate to say it like that, but I think 7 is a funny number. I want to take it, and I'm not gonna lie, I just be a homer and take it just to take it because I don't want to fade my team. But Notre Dame has lost a lot of talent. I don't know if they reloaded as well as a lot of people anticipate a team to make a college football playoff or be in contention for the college football playoffs would have reloaded. So I am going to just go with my squad to cover the number. But I've seen a lot of people who are picking Notre Dame. They've got the line as high as like a 10-point cover. So they think that Notre Dame wins by at least 10. I'm jumping in at 7. I'll probably bump it up to 7.5, but 10 seems like a honest number, barring a Florida State like absolute collapse. 10 to maybe 12 is an honest number, probably. The last quick hit is a game that I put on at the very last minute. Actually, Oregon State is visiting Purdue. Purdue is favored by 7. I just highlighted this game because it's kind of why I went with the Charlotte 49ers last night. You got a quarterback coming into an environment where he's already turnover prone against a prolific offense, not prolific like they go 49, 50 points, but they've got the ability to put up points in bunches. And I think that gives the advantage to the better offense, even if their defense isn't as great. So, for example, last night, my logic with picking the 49ers over the Duke Blue Devils, Duke turns the ball over a lot. I made a post about it in one of my side chats to some of my friends. Like, Duke turns the ball over a ton. They were number 13 in turnovers forced last year, and they still had one of the worst turnover ratios in college football. So, like, that tells me they turn the ball over way too much. The 49ers, for what it's worth, they got blown out by Duke last year, but they have the ability to score points, and they were getting 6 points. I think it was 6.5. So I was like, why not take the home team there? Or why not take the team with the better offense going against a turnover-prone team to cover? Because ultimately what happens in a lot of these games when you have that tendency of people turning the ball over is you can kind of anticipate that you're going to get at least a 3 to 7 point bump from a turnover. And so I think there are times, and you got to be strategic with it, but there are times where you can kind of systematically or in a way calculate scenarios where you're probably going to get that bump. I think this is a scenario where we're probably going to get that bump from Oregon State. Purdue is favored by a touchdown. I think that they're gonna have the opportunity to win by at least 2 scores just because they're gonna get a favor from Oregon State. Now it could go the opposite way, obviously. Like, again, this isn't like an exact science, but I think the angle here is that I've got a team in Purdue who was going against a team in Oregon State that the only way they're probably looking to really move the ball is by running the ball. And Purdue is very solid against the run. Now, when we get into situations where Purdue or Oregon State will pass, I still think the advantage is with the Purdue defense just because of Oregon State's decision-making at the quarterback position. The gentleman they got, I think, is a transfer from Colorado. He had more interceptions than touchdowns, and he's like a 5th-year senior, something like that. He's an older player, and he had to transfer because he wasn't good enough to keep his position, and his touchdown turnover ratio is still awful. So give me Purdue here, which again, it wasn't a game that I had like circled on my calendar, but when I was looking through stuff earlier, I was like, man, I should probably throw this game in there. So those are my quick hits. Good luck to you guys. We got about 15 minutes before kickoff. Hope Texas loses. I hope Texas loses real bad so I can talk trash to Ben. Next week's show, I'm not sure what I'm going to do for next week's show. I need to talk to Marcus about it. I will actually be in Texas next week, and then I will probably be at the Arkansas game on Saturday. I'm not sure if I'm going to try to do it live from Arkansas. Hell, I'm not even sure if Marcus is going to join us in Arkansas, but we'll figure it out and have something for you guys. But yeah, this bum here, Ben, I will be with him live in Dallas or live from Dallas or Arkansas, one of them. But we'll figure it out. Good luck to everybody, man. Again, horns down.